Hello, everybody. Welcome to Orange Crushing It. I'm Frank Clark, the CEO of the Mr. Orange. And as always, I have an interesting guest on with me today. Interesting. I don't usually use that word. I always say, hey, good friend. Okay. Because everybody's a good friend. And again, why would you introduce people as bad friends and have them on your show? Right.
Agreed.
So I have a really cool guy on the show today. His name is Jay Levine. Jay is a father, husband, a realtor, and a coach. He started a business called ONE94 Real Estate with his wife, Catherine, and located in the town that he grew up in. So he's been around there for a long time. One thing about Jay is about contribution. It's a big part of his life and his company culture. He sits on the board of directors with the education department, the zoning board, the Little League board of directors. He coaches three different sports: baseball, soccer, basketball. His real estate agency is all about creating rock stars in the real estate industry. He's rooted in love, empathy, integrity, and acceleration, and he wants to make sure he adds massive value to every interaction. I'm going to ask him about that, what that massive value on buying a house with the ONE94 group is all about. And what they believe is that if you're not left with a wonderful experience, they haven't done their job. Okay, they don't measure success through their achievement or awards, but through customer satisfaction and solid relationships. He is out to change the world of real estate, one micro distinction at a time. And to just pat him on the back one more time, okay? This year, he's growing his business 300%. 300%. Okay, that's not some small task. All right,
No.
and it's not like he sold one house last year and he sold three this year. Oh, that's 300%. No, we're talking some real deal numbers here. Okay,
Thank
Jay
you.
Levine, welcome to Orange Crushing It, brother. How are you?
Thank you, Frank. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for all those wonderful words. And yes, I would say definitely a good friend, not a bad friend.
Not a bad friend. No. Even though I'm looking at this guy. Now this is a podcast. You can't see this, okay? Unless we repurpose this on YouTube, which I think we will do. I'm going to say good friend, even though he's got New York Giants helmets behind him. Oh my God, the sin word in my mother's house. Never say the word New York Giants or Yankees. And he's probably going to put a Yankees hat on now, too, just to piss me off even more. Oh, no, there we go. Just Giants. All right.
That's all right. We're fans of the game, first and foremost. Fans of the game.
Yes, we are, brother. Yes, we are. So welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Good. I'm really, really good, Frank. Thank you for having me on here. Like I said, getting to know you over the last few months, 7 months or so, has been quite an experience. Your knowledge, your wisdom, all the little distinctions that you have, that you make, that you share with us every day, because we do speak and interact every day, every morning, have really been something that have changed a lot of things, the way I do them, and just really appreciative. So happy to be here, happy to support, and excited to meet your audience.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that, the accolades there. And yes, we are on a morning show every single morning at 8:30 with the Unblinded movement. So if you want a dose of some just integrity based influence, check it out. It's at 8:30 every single day. So Jay, you own a real estate company called ONE94. How did you come up with the number of 194? What does 194 real estate mean?
So this is going to be crazy.
Okay.
That's our address. So we are 194 Main Street.
How?
I will say this, Frank. So funny story. I'm glad you brought that up. Funny story. I'm at an open house. This is pretty recently, actually. It wasn't too long after being 194. We've been open for about a year. I've been in the business for just under 5. We started last year in September. And somebody came up to me, a realtor, and she said, I see it's 194 Real Estate Group. Is that a Bible quote? Now, I'm not sure. I never thought of that, to be quite honest. B, I thought it was funny because I'm Jewish, and I just thought it was like kind of funny. I was like, Team Levine quoted the Bible for their real estate sign. And I looked it up. It's not a Bible quote, but 194 is our address. But it does mean, if you go to some numerology charts, it actually is rooted in integrity. And that was not something that was intentional, but obviously meant to be. But yeah, it was a pretty funny story. I like to joke around with that agent who came in. I said, no, I think actually it's a quote from the Torah, but I'm not quite sure.
I mean, how stereotypical? How like Rockefeller? Not Rockefeller. Who's the painter there? Oh man, I can't remember. Rockwell. Look, they're old Rockwell paintings. Norman Rockwell paintings, right? Yes, it's 194 Main Street, anywhere USA. Perfect.
It is 194 Main Street. Yeah. So we're right on the corner of a main road. Quite honestly, my wife my wife's a realtor and co-founder with me. But she's also by trade, she's a graphic designer, and she actually did work for NBC and for Toys R Us, and she designed magazines. So we have a professional, like, honestly, I would say the best graphic designer for any real estate company around. And I'm saying that humbly, but it's the truth. And we get really great designs, and she came up with the design and the logo, and we love it. And I'm proud of her.
Well,
Happy to
awesome,
have
man.
her.
Awesome, man. It's very, very cool. Very cool design. Yeah, very, very catchy, right? It definitely stands out. So Jay, you've been in your own community for a long time, right? And now you're servicing the people in that community. How has your relationship with the community, changed over your lifetime? And how has it evolved, I guess, over your lifetime?
Yeah.
And where do you see it now? And, what conflicts maybe does it create for you in a real estate space, or even opportunities? How's your community evolved?
Yeah, that's every one of those things is correct right there. So born and raised in New Milford, where we own our business. Our kids go to school in New Milford. My kids go to the school that I went to when I was in grade school. So incredibly sentimental, means a lot to me. I'm a sentimental kind of person. That kind of stuff does mean a lot to me. Growing up, I had a fantastic experience in the community. My father coached me in every sport that I played. The community was always together, parades, sporting events, 4th of July, community festivals, food drives. I mean, there was always such a great community feel. So I always had that sense of, loving where I'm from.
Right.
As I got older and I graduated high school, community was still great. But what happened is friends of mine left the area. So I wound up for a while after high school, after college, after some of college, and then moving out for the first time to another town. For about 10 years, I wasn't really involved in anything New Milford because I wasn't there. And people that I knew from New Milford didn't live there anymore. So it was kind of a weird dynamic. I kind of missed out on a lot of what was going on at that time. And we were focusing on work and things of that nature. Fast forward to 2008, we're looking for a house. We just got married, and probably a story for a different day. But the way we got our house, my first real estate deal ever was representing myself when I was 26 years old, not knowing anything of what I was doing. And I represented myself and my wife in a private transaction in the house I'm sitting in right now. So
Wow.
when we came back into the community, I knew right away that I wanted to insert myself back into volunteer. I didn't have any kids yet, but I wanted to be on the recreation board and things like that. So I did. I was on the board before I had any kids. So nobody thought I was getting in there to get my kid on a good team. It was to truly give back. And that's evolved further and further. And I'm involved in everything in this town. I mean, from, like you said, sports to the boards to just knowing everybody in town. How has it helped? It helps in the fact. Let me reframe that for a second. It's optimal for me, and it's beneficial for me to be out there and talking to people, for sure.
Sure.
What the issue becomes, and you might be able to see this, is I have a lot of energy, I have a lot of passion, and sometimes it can get confused. So I have a deep fear of misportrayal. That is like one of my fears, is misportrayal. It's like, oh, come on, no, I don't mean it that way. It's my excitement, my energy. So I will say it's been 99% a blessing to be in the town. Right. And there's always going to be these times where you're misportrayed potentially. But overall, we put our heart first and our community first and our kids first, and people know that.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? You're overly enthusiastic, you're happy all the time, Isn't it weird how some people will be, I mean, most of the people in the world love that kind of energy, right? They embrace that. It's energetic, it's magnetic. And yet there's a handful of go, he's just too happy. Something's got to be going on. His marriage must suck.
Right. What are you doing?
What's the story behind the story here? Right.
I've learned to smile at everybody, say hello, wave. I mean, you just, and I don't want to say this in not an opportunistic way, but relationships, you just never know who you're going to talk to. And, one of the greatest joys of my life is not connecting with somebody just for me, but seeing someone, meeting them and be like, oh my God, I have someone else that you should know, because there's going to be huge synergy. And I'm not talking about in any specific way, but just in general. And that's one of the That's why we used to call ourselves real estate matchmakers, because we love pairing people, but that got kind of cliche and corny. So we dropped that pretty quick.
Oh, all right. Well, it is a match, right? It's the largest investment you'll probably make in your lifetime, right? And one of the things that you said to me is, your business is rooted in love and integrity and acceleration, and you want to make sure you add value, and it's a relationship.
Mhm.
So now I've bought a number of houses in my lifetime. Okay, sold a few, and I bought a lot of cars too. Sold a few, and the
Love cars,
relationships
by
have.
the way.
What kind of cars?
I sold Lexus for a few years.
I was a client of Lexus for many years. I love that car.
We'll
Okay.
talk later about
Except they couldn't get the brakes right on the 460. I'm sorry, you just couldn't do it. Right. It
that.
just was horrible. They squeak all the time. F Sport, they just screwed that up. So I stopped becoming a Lexus. Anyway, story for another time.
Yep.
But the point I was trying to make here is that lots and lots of cars, lots and lots of houses, and every single one of them was a different experience. And some of them were really, really awesome. Some of them were just horrific, like horrific. So what is it the piece that you bring into your clients? You say, look, I want to make this an experience. I want you to not just buy a house, but I want you to have the 194 experience. What's the 194 experience, and why does that differentiate than anybody else?
So there's a lot of people out there that feel like real estate, from our experience, is a transaction. So we don't take it like a transaction. It's not transactional to us. Real estate is, we always say real estate's a feeling. Real estate is a relationship. Real estate is about having integrity. Most importantly, one of the foundations is the transparency and the communication you have with your client. I'll jump back from my Verizon background. When I first started in Verizon, if I was not completely transparent with a customer up front, setting all the expectations correctly, 6 months later, I came back and had to deal with a nightmare when their bill was completely wrong. So I learned at a very young age that if you didn't, even if it wasn't on purpose, but if you weren't just completely transparent, here's what's A to Z, what could happen, what may happen, why it could happen, that usually causes a problem. So 1, transparency. 2, that relationship. When we first meet somebody, selling the house is the easy part. Getting paid is the easy part. It's everything before that is the journey. That's the most important part that we take you through. And if you need it, we hold your hand. Some people don't need the hand holding and like to have a little bit more control, and that's fine. But we're there to answer any questions, literally day or night. My phone doesn't stop. I don't turn it off. It could be, I've answered emails at 2 a.m, probably yesterday. You know what I mean? It's just, sure. We work around the clock. Number 3, we align ourselves with many like-minded people. So not only do we have partners and team members in our ONE94 group that can help us as well and allow for other people to have great communication, but we work with so many other partners, attorneys, financial professionals, mortgage brokers, title agents, appraisers. I mean, we have really so many people that we can bring to the table because of those relationships that we built.
Right.
We also feel that the people are not, this product is not for us. The end outcome is not for me. What do I do for people? When someone says yes to Team Levine, Jay Levine, and ONE94 Real Estate Group, they're saying yes to their future. They're saying yes to getting into the home that they want. They're saying yes to starting to build the fabric of their community. So when I get a yes from someone, I know it's impacting someone, not just today, but for the rest of their lives, depending on the situation that they're in. So that's an incredible feeling when you're going about that. And that feeling comes out. When you deal with someone who is not leading with their love foot, with their heart,
right,
it's just so evident to me at this point. It's so clear when someone is looking, when it's my least favorite radio station, WIFM, with them, what's in it for me? When you feel that what's in it for me, it creates that little icky feeling going on, and there's a disconnect and you break rapport. So we really spend time on figuring out what people want and truly what they want, not what I want them to want.
Right. Well, and you're bringing them into your community, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is place you grew up, right? Yep. So obviously you want to have a great relationship with them because this is all your peeps, man. This is all on
our street too, actually.
This is your street, yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, they're your neighbors now, man. So yeah, I can imagine, right? You want to make sure that everything's a great transaction, a great feeling for this. I also remember you telling me about, you work in the Verizon store. You managed, actually, you operated, owned one, right? Didn't your family
own it? Yep.
Yeah, you owned it for a little while, right?
8 years.
8 years. And what were some of the things you learned in that particular business?
Don't go into retail. No, just
Don't
kidding.
go to don't tell Verizon. It's Sprint. I don't know.
No phones. No
No,
phones.
no phones. No, seriously though. I mean, 8 years is a long time. Okay, and you're still a young guy, so I'm sure there was a lot of knowledge, like things you don't do, things you should do. What were kind of like two of the biggest takeaways of when you worked in that Verizon store that you go, you know what? Here's one thing that I will always do. Man, this was a great tip that I learned when I worked for Verizon. And here's something that I will never ever do again with my business. What
Yep.
were those two things?
So I'll give you two things of each. So number one, for what I do over and over again, for sure, would be it's that transparency factor. That telling people what the truth is, not what they want to hear necessarily, is so important in every business, especially when starting a relationship, because we're building a foundation of lies if we're just telling someone what they want to hear. And what you think you're in integrity because you're trying to soften the blow, but you're out of integrity fully because you're lying to the person. So integrity, number one. Number two, solutions. I love finding solutions for people. I will not give up on you because something is hard. And I've learned that over the years, the people that you not problem solve, that's I don't even like the phrase. I find solutions, not look for problems to solve. If that kind of makes sense.
Well, it totally makes sense. In my company, our titles are solutions provider.
There you go.
We don't have salespeople. We don't have CEO. We're all solutions providers.
I didn't know that. So that's even better. Even better. What will I not do? So one thing I will not do is I will not work for a corporation anymore that has control of me outside of myself. That honestly, one of the biggest lessons I learned, aside from the corporate structure, no, I was never someone who wanted to be in the corporate world. Owning my own store, when I first bought it in 2008, it was very mom and pop. I could do whatever I wanted. In fact, we sold broke a record. Our first month of business, broke a record in our area for most Blackberries sold. I think they were all sold to Sean, but most Blackberries sold.
All three of them, huh?
All three of them. I sold like 1,000. I won like $1,000 gift card to Best Buy. I remember in like 2008. It was like my first month in business. I was like, this is fantastic. But what I'll never do again in business is honestly is have to. I'm trying to create the right language for this and not have it come out wrong. I had to sell so many products to even come close to making a living.
Right.
And I couldn't staff the store enough with people to allow anyone to have time. It was very difficult. So that was the biggest thing for me. The products themselves, there wasn't enough volume to be able to be sold, and it was a volume type product.
Right.
So that's why I actually got into right after Verizon. In between working for Verizon and owning Verizon, that's when I worked for Lexus. Okay. And I went back to Verizon as an owner. And the problem was, honestly, it was very difficult to staff because you're selling phones, and Verizon was almost saying to you, like, you just want to get some minimum wage. Like, you couldn't find the people that truly wanted to do what I wanted and how I wanted to do that with integrity and like really working hard, because I couldn't pay them enough, because they would have had to sell 1,000 phones a month to really get. So it was that conundrum. So like, and I would have had to sit in the seat and do it myself, which was fine for the first 5 years, but then I couldn't grow anymore.
Right.
So I got stuck.
Yeah, and it's like selling cars, right? You can sell Toyota, you can sell Lexus, right? Now, if you're going to get paid the same commission on a car, sell the expensive cars, right? If you're going to get 5% on selling a phone versus 5% on a $5 million home, I think I'll sell the house. It might take a little longer, all right?
Right.
Sometimes it take about the same amount of time, but I've always subscribed to that as well. Sell expensive stuff.
Yeah. And number two would be for the what I'll never do again. It was being my own boss. I owned a store, but I was a franchise owner for a corporation, and I never had freedom. I always had somebody else saying, what they thought was right or wrong. And it was somebody who had never been in the seat of selling something ever. And it was a corporate guy with a suit on that was telling me I have to do it differently because that's how they want it. And I was the guy going, how about that? So that was always my attitude towards it. But like I said, it was, my people loved me. The store was flourishing. We had repeat business like crazy. When someone saw something on TV that said Verizon, if you were from Emerson, you came to my store. Like a Verizon ad was Jay Levine's ad. So we had top of mind, and what I will say we did get as well from this is incredible relationships with incredible people. My father worked with me at the time. He continued to grow relationships, and we, grew new ones together. And it was just a great business. I get very emotional when I think of the day I locked that door for the last time, because although I was very happy to sell and get out of a bad situation, I'm very sentimental, and it was my home. It was part of me at that point.
Yeah, well, it's your baby, right? It's the first thing you actually did, right? If you look at an entrepreneur, right? I'm an entrepreneur, and one of the things that's common with us is we'll work 100 hours a week for the sheer pleasure of never working 40 for somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Right. We're gonna grind it out. We're gonna walk the miles. You're gonna have that orange energy, man, that driven, that intensity, that adrenaline junkie,
Yep.
Desire to succeed no matter what the cost is. People ask you what you do. The answer is whatever it takes. I'm just gonna fucking go. Okay.
Yep.
That's
Forward.
it, man. You're going forward. You're moving. You're driving. Right. And so, here you are, a nice, entrepreneur. Yes, you have to close the doors on one thing, but closing the door, open two more, right?
Yeah.
Now you have a wife. How many kids do you have? Two?
Two kids.
Two kids.
Jackson and Ava, 9 and 7. Jackson is 9.
7.
My daughter's 7.
And you're giving back. I mean, you're giving back. You work in the community. You're coaching their teams. You're with baseball, softball.
That's why my voice sounds like this. We had soccer this weekend.
Yes, and you're a passionate coach. I can probably tell, right?
So I'm a very passionate coach, and I will tell you that it is passion. There is no yelling at my kids. There's tons of yelling. There is no yelling at anyone. There's only motivation, truth, and drive, and that's the truth. And actually, I'm not coaching right now. This is fan voice because they canceled the sports in my town. I don't think that was necessary, but they canceled the sports in my town, so we went to the next town to play the sports. So I'm not coaching, but I'm definitely
You're the proud dad.
a fan.
A fan. Yeah, Giants fan. All right, we know. We know about you guys. Yeah. Jay, you have obviously this sense of community. You're love being involved with your kids. You run on a business, and you're working a ton of hours. I know you through the Unblinded movement. Also, you step up in that organization. You take leadership roles all the time. You're constantly the guy that's, hey, give the baton to me, man. Give the ball to me. I want to take it, right? You're not the guy that's like, oh, don't hit it my way. You're the guy that always wants to take it and go. Who inspired you to have that kind of drive? Who was the, person or persons or team or teacher, whatever? Who was it that man, that's where I got it from?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, that my father was an owner of a hardware store. My grandfather owned a hardware store. My grandfather owned a hardware store in Manhattan called Queensboro Hardware. It was right next to the Queensboro Bridge. He says they named the bridge after the hardware store. If anyone can fact check that, I'm pretty sure it's not true. And then my father owned a hardware store in New Milford, in Closter, called Windmill Hardware. And I really thought I was going to own a hardware store when I grew up. I don't know when I'll grow up, but eventually when I grew up, I thought I would own a hardware store. And that didn't happen. My father hit some hard times with back when a Desert Storm, Home Depot came out. A lot of trouble happened, and the store had to go under. My father didn't stop. He picked right back up, and he, actually my father knew before that this was going to happen, kind of similar to how my Verizon situation happened. And he started his side business of contracting and home repair a few years prior and cultivated the clients through the hardware store. And he kept moving forward. And my parents had a lot of hard times with money during that stint. And my father, my mother was home with the kid, with us. And my father never stopped working, and he owned his own business. And I never knew him not to own his own business. He's never worked for somebody, except for my grandfather, but it was a family business at that point. So, and then my grandfather wound up working for my dad. Then I opened the store. My dad wound up working for me. So it's like a big, this is how we live.
Incestuous. Yeah.
Yeah. This is how we roll. So I would say that drive comes from there for sure. What I'll also say is, and I love my father very much. So Dad, if you're listening, don't take this in the wrong way, but unfortunately, my father didn't expect to be where he is right now after a business that looked like it was going to, be the moon didn't really happen that way. So, and my father lives a great life. He has wonderful grandchildren, you know, incredible guy, plays tons of guitar, has a really great life. But I don't think he expected to necessarily be, you know, divorced, living in an apartment, you know, nice apartment, but living in an apartment like he is. So part of it is for me to not repeat anything that may have happened in the past. And again, there's no animosity towards it. I had a great upbringing. I just would prefer to change a couple patterns that weren't anyone's fault, but now seeing them maybe before, I can change that pattern. So that's where that drive comes from. I want to make sure. I've had a couple businesses. When I was at Lexus, first year at Lexus, made like a buck and a half, 150K. And I was like, whoa, I was like 22 years old. I was like, all right, I'm selling cars. I was working 15 hours a day, but it was worth it. And 2006 is when I started that. 2007, the market crashed. I didn't make anything next year, like almost nothing. So I was like, so that was a bummer. And then Verizon was going good. And then it kind of fell down and we had to sell. And the real estate thing was like, okay, like flag in the ground. This is not going to go like this. And again, we've always it's been like this for us.
Yep.
But it's, thankfully it's always on the rise, but there's valleys and peaks that you got to go through. And, we're still getting out of some of those valleys from the Verizon store, but the drive itself comes from my ancestry and my grandfather and my father, who both had a lot of passion and drive to open up their own businesses. And when my grandfather did it, it was in a time where, the country was just starting to thrive. And, I can only imagine how that must have felt. My dad told me he made $1,000 a week in 1972.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
In
1972, that's a lot of money.
He told me he didn't do it. He has nothing to show for it, he said, but he literally, like a brand new Camaro or Mustang would have been like $5,000. So in like every month and a half, you could have had a brand new Mustang. Thinking about that now, that's crazy.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, I had my Camaro. I had an IROC Z, man. They weren't 5,000, but they
absolutely did.
I absolutely, well, of course they did. Right?
I am not confused about that one.
I know you got one secretly hiding back there on one of your shelves back there. You got so many toys and tricks.
I got some cars somewhere.
You got some stuff up there. You talk about, Jay, you talk about the Verizon store, and then you talk about, Lexus. Do you consider yourself at all a failure in any of those parts?
No.
You consider them failed businesses, failed, I
ventures?
Feel like
every one of those businesses gave me a new experience. And listen, at the end of the day, when you think of the math, I owned the Verizon store for 8 years.
Right.
I left it in some debt, but it was way more money that I gained over the 8 years and the relationships than what I was left with in debt. So at the end of the day, what happened was I got out at the perfect time, because if I owned a Verizon store right now, I don't know if I would be able to survive. With all that was going on, I think I would have been I don't think I would have had anybody to work for me, because I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to have been touching people's gross phones in this market right now. Yeah. So I feel like everything has happened at the moment. Oh yeah, I absolutely felt like a failure, 100%. There was a moment, I'll give you a vulnerable moment. I was at the Verizon store. They had just closed down Kinderkamak Road, which is a main street where my store is located. They just closed the road down in front of my store and like a half a mile after my store. So you could only get in my parking lot if you like climbed over a mountain and went through a tunnel. It was like ridiculous. And right before that, they made me redo my store. So I had to spend $50,000 redoing my store. And then I lost $50,000 that year because basically no one could get to me. So I went $100,000 in the hole, and I had to take out like a credit line and all kinds of crazy stuff. And unfortunately, this is like, a darker moment, I guess you could say, in a way. I couldn't pay the rent, and I was, taking money. I also do credit card. I'm partners in a merchant services company, credit card processing. So there's a residual income. I was taking money that used to like go home in our savings and like pay my credit line at Verizon. That doesn't make any sense. I'm robbing from my family. So Finally the shit hit the fan, and I got letters from attorneys because I wasn't paying them. I was paying, but I was way behind. I was always like shorting them a little bit because I couldn't afford it. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my investor who was one of my family members. I didn't tell anybody. When they found out was when my partner got a letter, because there was a silent partner involved, got a letter. He's like, "You didn't pay the rent?" I'm like, Well, listen, I basically paid the rent. Okay, I'm a couple months behind. But so there was a little bailout situation there. We, renegotiated some things and talked to the landlord, and there was legit hard times because of that, of what happened to me that year. So it wasn't like we were still doing business. That's why I was behind on my rent, but it was like a consistent 6 months behind because I was able to pay still, but there was like a 6 month period where I was like floundering.
Yeah, but dude, look at, you started something. There was obviously, somebody blocks the access to your store. That's a huge deal, right? Huge deal, right?
It cut our business in half at least.
Yeah, yeah, of course, it cuts your business in half. There's economic and there's an environment, right? There's seasons of businesses too, and there's government issues that come up. I mean, we're all in COVID right now. That's a massive problem for a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
And yet, I don't look at anything as a failure, really. I look at it as a lesson, right? And yeah, in the moment, like you said, there's like swearing and tearing your hair out and tears and all that. Fuck, I screwed up, man. I'm a disgrace. How am I going to tell my family? All of this stuff, right? And still, when it's all said and done, you come out the other side, you survived 100% of your worst days, right?
100%.
100% of your worst days, we've all survived. That's
And I'm very proud to say that not one time, and there's, people go through a lot of trouble, but there was, through that whole time, I never doubted or questioned myself in my life. I questioned myself in that business at the moment, but I never questioned my true being of why I was here and what my purpose was. And that's why I never gave up. And that's why on May 23rd, 2016, my flag went on the ground and I got my real estate license. And that's my son's birthday. So I'll never forget that day that I got my license because it was his birthday. And I promised that this was going to be the legacy I was going to leave, was going to be to start my career and eventually open my own brokerage and rock and roll. That was in 2016. The plan was not really a 5-year plan. It was like a let's see what happens kind of plan. And it just so happens that three years and a month in, we are the owners of 194 Real Estate Group. And like I said, when we got out of that Verizon store and things started to turn around, and I was able to tell my wife and tell my family, and they were able to offer support within speaking to me and just knowing that I wasn't alone in that situation. It brought me to the other side of that. And, there were some more struggles that happened for sure getting there. We got somebody that was interested in buying the store. And believe me, we did that. We did that. So you
fixed it. You fixed it, man. You fixed the situation, right? You did the best you could with the information you have. That's what life is, right? We do the best that we can with the information that we have at the moment. Leaders make decisions. They don't always make the right decisions, but I heard General Schwarzkopf talk one time about Desert Storm and putting together people from all different nations around the world and making them one army, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this guy doesn't get along with that guy, and this guy doesn't get along with that guy, right? The Aussies don't seem to get along with, I don't know, some country in Europe, and the Americans don't seem to get along with the South Americans, whatever the hell it was, right? And they're back and forth. But the one thing he did say, he said, look, when you're put in a position of leadership, make a decision. Make a decision in real time. And if you make the wrong decision, make another decision. And just keep making decisions until you get to the right one, right? And that's what you're doing, man. That's what you're doing. You're taking a business, okay? Didn't necessarily turn out the way you expected it to do. But you learn so much. You learn so much. Yes. I mean, I coach people, and one of the groups that I like to coach are people that are transitioning, like they're 30, 40, 50, whatever, 60 years old, and they're in that next chapter of their life. And it's amazing to me how they lose a spouse, okay? Divorce, death, whatever it is, right? Or they lose their job. They've been working in the same company for 25 years, they lose their job. And automatically they go to, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I guess I'll be schlepping hamburgers at some fast food place, I guess I'll be, doing this, right? And not that that's wrong. Okay, the people that are in that business, hey, it's respectable. It's work, right? And I go to them, I go, why do you think that that's what you have to do? Do you not understand you have 35 years of experience? I go, in the field that you're in, yeah, you lost that job, but you understand this stuff, right? And they go, well, I think I'd love to start a company. Okay, start a company. And then they're like, well, no, I could never start a company. I go, why not? Well, because I don't know this and I don't know that. I go, look, here's your worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. First, you're good at what you do, right? Yeah. So you're at least, that's your baseline. You at least know what you do, right? Now you start a company and you learn marketing and you learn sales and you learn HR and you learn all kinds of accounting and you learn all the stuff about the internet, and you learn customer relations and corporate culture and how to raise money, and you learn all this shit, right? And let's say you fail miserably, you still learned all this stuff. You still learned all this stuff, right? And you go back to doing what you do now, but you don't go back just going, hey, I'm an engineer. No, I'm an engineer that knows how to market. I'm an engineer that knows how to raise capital. I'm an engineer that's had employees, did HR, boom, 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 boom. You add it all up. I want another 50 grand, man. I'm not just anybody. I'm this guy, right? Plus all the human capital, like we talk about in Unblinded, all the ecosystems that right? 35 years of experience, all these things, all these people, right? There's so many people of influence. You have it all. And that to me, whenever I look at failure or anything that's perceived as failure, it's really not. Look at all the grace. And also, maintain an attitude of gratitude. There's always something you can be grateful for. Always, no matter how horrible things are looking, there's always an attitude of gratitude, right? Now, here you are, a dad, right? And how old did you say your kids were? 9 and 7?
9 and 7, yeah.
9 and 7. Okay. 194 Real Estate. Let's look 20 years in the future.
All right.
Okay. 20 years in the future.
I figure how old I am. 30. Okay. 50. I'm 58.
You're old. You're wicked old at this time. Okay?
Wicked old.
You're wicked
old.
You're wicked old. Okay. Your kids are out of college even. All right. Probably, unless they're going, in medical school, whatever they're doing. Right. And 194 is the real estate company of real estate companies. Okay. And your kids are married and now they're starting to have kids themselves. And what is the legacy that you want your kids to be teaching their kids? What is the legacy that you want to leave them with 20 years from now? What's the legacy you want to leave in your community? But mostly, what's the legacy you want to leave with your kids and go, when you raise your kids, man, I really hope you learned this. I really hope dad imparted this on you. What would that be?
It goes back to just basically the way we run our business, that I hope that they are people that can empathize. I think having empathy is a characteristic that not everybody has, and it's something that is incredibly important. So having empathy as a human being is something that I hope I instill in my children and the people that I'm around, that I work with. Truth, as kids, and even myself as a child, trying to get away with stuff. I understand there's a lot. You test the truth waters a little bit, and you try to get away with what you can get away with. And part of me, when I get lied to by my kids, part of it is okay with me, because sometimes when they lie on their feet, I'm actually proud of them that they thought that quickly to come up with something that made a little bit of sense. They can't trick me, so I call them out on it. But like the whatever in their brain that allows them to think quickly. So that's another thing. I always want them to be very accepting of everyone and very inclusive. I want them to love all people with boundaries and never always, it sounds cliche, but always treat people how you feel you want them to treat you back. And even when they don't treat you back that way, to realize that you can't change people. You can only change the way you react to them and you handle the situation. So, a lot of stress in my life. I still do, but I try. It's one of the things I try hard is not to get angry, and frustrated, and because it doesn't help anything.
Right.
You could be get angry and frustrated in the moment, but I'm really good at, okay, I'm done. That's done now, and just switch and just be done with it. Like I get into a fight with my wife, and like an hour later I forgot. I'll walk over like, hey, it's like, I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot.
Oh, we're still in a fight.
Sorry, forgot. But like that's one of the things as adults we've gotten so good at is getting over things quickly. You know what I mean? Like there's way more to life, and especially during all this stuff in Corona. So I would say, and family, just the importance of having that togetherness as family is something that I watched parts of my family as everyone got older change and dynamics change. And the family parties don't look the same when you look at them the way they used to look and things like that. So, that togetherness I think is really important. And that's what we do, the same thing in our company. Those same principles are what we're doing in our company. And that's why we don't even call the realtors and the realtors, it's usually just like our partners or our team or our family. Like that's how we introduce people to them. That's what it is, That's what it is.
Well, I can tell, dude, that, you're right on the path, and I'm sure your kids are going to be, living that legacy. I mean, look, almost every single question I ask you comes back down to transparency and truth, and treat people how you want to be treated, and with respect and honesty. And, when that's the fiber of what you do, unconditional love with boundaries, and that's the foundation of how you run your business, how you run your life, how you raise your kids, how you show up in the community, you can't help but have a great life. And yeah, we're going to make mistakes, and things are going to shit's going to happen. Failures, we'll call them lost opportunities, problems. It's part of life. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid it, but how you deal with it, right? Getting yourself in the state, slapping on a smile, right?
Doing some push-ups, some jumping jacks,
doing some push-ups, whatever it takes, right? That's cool. Well, Jay, I got to tell you, man, you're an exciting guy. I love your energy. It is highly contagious, all right? And even though you're a Giants fan, you may be my favorite Giants fan, okay? You may have elevated yourself to favorite Giants, if there is such a thing. Okay?
I was just gonna say, that doesn't make me feel that great.
That's like an oxymoron. Like
you are the best, worst person I know.
Yeah, well, that didn't start out that way. Okay, these are my worst friends.
Listen, healthy competition is good. It's all good.
It is. It's just stings, man. Eli twice. Oh my God. Okay. Anyhow,
this thing for me.
I'm not going down that road. Not going down that road.
I think what I got here. Who's this? Is this Eli? That's JPP. He has no hit. JPP, different story.
Okay, different story.
I have no more jerseys left. All my jerseys are no longer Giants. I'm not buying jerseys anymore. I'm done.
You're not? So you have room in your closet? You have room in your closet for a TB12?
I have room in my closet for a Cam Newton jersey.
All right. Well, believe me, I think Belichick will send you one before long. All right. Who knows, man?
Hey, thank you so much, man.
Jay, this was fun, man. This was a good conversation. It was fun. It was enlightening. I love the way you're running your company. I love that you're a community guy. You're always giving back. You're always looking for what's great in things. Hey, before I ask you how people can get a hold of you, there is, again, people can't see this because it's a podcast, but you have a Chewbacca action figure sitting right behind you. Okay. Real quick, why Chewbacca? Is there a fun fact about you and Chewbacca? Are you a Star Wars geek, or what's the deal?
So
here we go. Darth Vader. You got two of them.
He's already got his hand chopped off. We're good.
Well, he's Darth Vader, of course. Yeah.
So there's no super fun story. I'll be honest. I am a terrible movie person, and I don't tell Sean, I haven't seen all the Star Wars movies. I've seen like dribs and drabs. My son is a huge Star Wars fan, and what I'm a fan of is what I would call tchotchkes. Okay. And I absolutely love just stuff. So like this to me is super cool. There's not as much of a fun and exciting story behind it, other than May the Force be with you is behind me.
Other than it's, May the Force be with you. And you got Chewbacca there looking over your
I got Chewbacca looking over my shoulder. Yeah, we do. I like to, my family doesn't love it because my garage is filled with some stuff. But as you can see, I have some records back here. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee talks about it, like go to the flea market and sell the stuff. I just cut out the sell part and keep it.
Oh, okay. You're a collector. All right. Early hoarding. Warning.
Don't worry, I have connections. I can get hoarders. I can get people in here to clean it out.
All right, brother. Hey, Jay, how can people get a hold of you in 194?
Yeah, so best way to get a hold of me is you could either give me a call. My cell phone's always on. My phone number is 201-906-0519. You can reach us at Team Levine Realtors at gmail.com. That's realtors with an S, Team Levine Realtors at gmail.com. Or find us on Facebook. My name is Jay Levine on Facebook. We have 194 Real Estate Group's Facebook page. We have the Team Levine Real Estate Facebook page, Instagram. We're all over the place. If you can't find me, call me, because if you can't find me, you're spelling my name wrong.
Check the flea markets. He'll be there. Picking up some Bewitched, some Scooby-Doo toy.
I got Scooby-Doo. I got all kinds of stuff. Baseball cards are my original love of collecting. Baseball.
All right. Well, you'll be there. And you can always check them out here on the Orange Crushing It site. Jay Levine, thank you again, brother. You're an awesome guy. You're a good friend, and stay inspiring, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
All right, brother. Take care.